of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do roll call when you're ready, Crystal.
Trustee Gator,
Here.
Trustee Jerome,
Here.
Trustee Kinney, Trustee McDonald, Trustee Whitehouse,
Here.
Knutson, Mayor Hammond.
Here. Okay. We have amendments to the agenda tonight.
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to propose that we move action item number 1, which is actually should just be a presentation, not an action item, to 2B under presentation. So just moving it forward under presentations after the community activities budget.
Any objection?
No, sir.
A second, please.
I'll second the amendment to the budget as proposed by Trustee Gator.
Okay. Good enough.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
Trustee Jerome,
Yes.
Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Any conflicts of interest we need to be aware of? Okay, moving on to community participation. This is a public comment time at this point. Any people in the area, in the room tonight want to speak on non-agenda items? You're welcome to come up to the podium, sign your name, and please state your name and your address, and you'll get 3 minutes to tell us what you got.
Sherelle Teets, address 4525 Ingalls Drive, Wellington, Colorado, 80549. I am actually coming to request something super simple, and how that structure looks, whether it be through the trustees or through the town. I would love to see a general education times that we actually can host for people looking to sit on board positions. So it would be a time where the local community can come out, hear what each board position is about, gain some information, and see if it's something that would be of interest to the people that are applying for the positions. I think if more people knew and understood kind of how these boards are structured, education and information about them, that it might be of benefit and we might attract more people to sit on boards and get a wider variety. I think a lot of people are scared to step up in general because they don't totally know what everything is about. I think that it would be beneficial to have.
Okay.
That's all I have.
All right, thanks. We'll put that under advisement, see if we can't do something.
So Mayor Hammond, if I may, that will be part of the community town hall that we're having on October 19th. There will be information provided, and we will, during that time, during that event that we're planning on hosting here at the Leaper Center.
We'll address some of that.
Yes, sir.
All right. Start.
Hi, guys. I am Melanie Murphy, the Outreach Coordinator and founder
Excuse
of,
me, I didn't get it.
I'm sorry, I am Melanie Murphy,
Melanie Murphy.
3584 Polk Circle East,
Okay.
Wellington, Colorado, 80549. Okay, hi, I am Melanie Murphy, Outreach Coordinator and founder of Responsible Wellington, a local community group looking to pass ballot question 2B and ballot issue 300 this year at the November 2nd election. Oh, there's Ashley. I thank you for taking my comment tonight because we think it's important to clarify our community, the town's involvement in 2B and 300. I have worked hard the last couple of years to bring the question of whether cannabis should be legal in our community to the voters. Goal was to get it on the 2020 ballot, but the town did not act as required by law, so it was delayed until this year. The action by the town resulted in a lawsuit that we did not want to file, but we were left with no choice. However, we were willing to work with the town on these measures, and we proved that. Over multiple months, we worked with the town to come up with mutually acceptable ballot language that allowed us to dismiss our lawsuit against the town. We were patient and went through multiple continuances requested by the town that we could have simply enforced the issue in court. We chose not to because we did not want to fight with the town. We want to work with the town. During this time, we held many meetings with the town to draft mutually agreed upon ballot language. Town made many proposals that were incorporated into the final ballot language that the voters will see. Hence, the town did have significant input and investment in final ballot language. Excuse me. On May 11th, 2021, Board of Trustees voted to formally refer this ballot to our residents to decide on. The above facts make it very disingenuous and actually false for any town employee or elected official to say the town did not have significant input to this process or the final ballot language of 2B and 300. Thank you.
You know what? You might leave a copy of that. That was so
Certainly.
fast. I didn't get it. I mean,
Sorry.
but why don't you leave a copy of that?
Certainly will.
Okay. I appreciate you bringing it up.
It needs clarification, so I appreciate your time.
You bet. Absolutely. Anyone else? Okay, thank you, folks. We'll bring it back to our start our regular board meeting here. We're moving right into presentations. Okay, first presentation tonight's Community Activities Commission 2022 budget presentation. This can be Wyatt. How are you, sir?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Do I have to speak into the mic or is it?
Yes.
Okay, I was like, I'm pretty, okay, good to know. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Town Board, for allowing me to come in and speak and do this presentation for you today. My name is Wyatt Schwendeman-Curtis, and I'm the interim chair and treasurer for the Community Activities Commission. Today I'm going to just be presenting our budget proposal for 2022, and then I'll have some questions. If there's any questions at the end, feel free to ask. There's the town main events for 2022 that we're looking at doing, and then possible events and sponsorships are on the right. And then for the breakdown, so for the Easter egg hunt, we just try to make this presentation and the budget lines a little bit more simpler. They were a little bit of a mess and confusing to follow. So this makes it easier to follow for all of you. So for portable restrooms, we're looking at 800. Easter egg supplies is 1,500. The bunny costume for whoever decides to do that, we want to do a thank you this time just because it is a thankless job and we want to make sure we give them a thank you. And then currently our face painter is a volunteer, but in the future, if that is not possible, we do want to make sure we put money behind a face painter just because it is one of the popular events. So we're looking at doing 150, and then bunny costume maintenance, dry cleaning, all that fun stuff, $100. So for Easter egg hunt, we're looking at $2,600. 4th of July is obviously our most expensive event, as the tone knows. It is our biggest event. So for this one, it's just going to be broken down. We have some parade costs and then some festival costs. So for the parade, MC judges, thank you, it's going to be 130. Parade trophies 200, golf cart 300, face painter again is 150. We are looking at doing shade canopy rentals this next year for 600, and we have looked into quotes for those already. Event supplies 1,000, music 1,000. We would like to try and incorporate a little bit more music this next year. Bounce houses are 2,000, portable restrooms and trash are 5,500, and traffic control is 5,800. The traffic control price is based off of old costs. So if we, hire a different company for traffic control, we're hoping to actually get that cost down lower. So that right now is a total of 16,680. This one is going to be the town cleanup, Halloween, and Veterans Day. Right now, there's not specific items that we put towards each event. It's just a general cost. But town cleanup would be 1,500, Halloween 500, and Veterans Day is 1,500, total of 3,500. As I said, these are general costs. I'm just going to read from this. Once the amount is approved for the event, we'll be able to break that down further. And then we want to make sure we just put more money behind the town cleanup and Veterans Day events. Right now, last year's budget, they were actually a little bit smaller. So we wanted to put a little bit more money behind that to hopefully get one increase in community awareness and to just get hopefully more turnout. So, and then for Halloween, we know that Main Street does a great job during Halloween. We're hoping to team up with them and help do more sponsorship stuff with them.
That's what the 500 is meant for, to team up with them.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And then if we decide to do like, I know in the past, the CAC used to do a costume contest. So if we do something like that, we can put something towards that, but I would like to work with Main Street events to, you know,
Sure.
to do what we need to for that. The Christmas parade and tree lighting is, sorry.
Oh, God.
I know. The Christmas parade and tree lighting, it is 2-day event. This one, the parade, we're gonna just be thanking the judges and the MC, parade trophies, food and beverage, which is 2 days. We're looking at doing hot cocoa, apple cider, and candy canes. We're gonna actually stay away from cookies just because of allergens and whatnot. You don't want to get into that mess. So we'll provide people with sugar instead. And then traffic control, 4,500, so 5,330. And then our general fund, so this is gonna be stuff that we either have to pay fee-wise or just general stuff that will go for all year long. So for food and beverage supplies, $50. Canopy purchase and general supplies, if we decide to purchase more canopies and this would be town canopies that would actually have the town logo on it, would be 200. Face painter supplies, we are gonna supply face painting supplies to either the volunteer or the paid person, and that would be $200. And then walkie-talkies, we're looking at rental or purchase, whatever cost effective, will be $200. We do want to have water at all events, so that would be $150. And then Wellington toy storage unit, which is the storage unit that we all use, is $1,500. The Wellington Fire Department annual event fee is $400, and then advertising and marketing is $800, which I know the town provides, but we still need to put money behind that. The ASCAP annual fee, which is $50, and that is to make sure that we aren't crossing any lines with music. So we're getting everyone's, rights to make sure we can have that music. And then we are looking at doing what's called a community partnership program, and that will be $3,500. I'm going to go into that in a little bit of detail here in a second. So hold the questions for that in a second. So the total cost is going to be $7,050. The final overview for the 2022 budget proposal. So for the total proposal, we're looking at $35,160. That's $250 less than 2021 budget. Obviously, because of COVID, we are not meeting the 2021 budget this year. But we do feel like we're going to be able to have those events planned better next year and be able to utilize that money. We cleaned up the budget to make it easier to read and understand. As I said, we're introducing a community partnership program. And then we wanted to create a better process of communication and transparency with the board and the community of Wellington. So the community partnership program, the CAC is creating this community partnership program that will allow us to sponsor events on behalf of the town for local businesses and organizations. The business or organization will present their event to the CAC through a proposal and expected to, provide a sponsorship cost of how much they're wanting for us to sponsor. Once presented to the CAC, we'll inform the board in our monthly or bi-monthly presentation that we decide to do. The CAC will discuss and vote on the proposal and the cost. We are starting off with a small budget this year for this one. And that's just because we're not sure how successful it's going to be. We're hoping it's very successful, and then we can determine from there what we want to do with the 2023 budget. Examples of partnerships would be Main Street's Halloween, the Kiwanis Wish and Derby. I know that there's a group that does a monthly cleanup already. We would like to do something with Cinco de Mayo. There's a Christmas chili dinner. We would like to work with the Chamber of Commerce, whatever. There's a bunch of groups that do events in this town, so something like that. So that's what the program is. And then I'm going to take a sidestep away from the budget real quick. This presentation that we're hoping to do for the CAC. So what we're proposing to the board is we would like to do a monthly or an every other month presentation to the Board of Trustees. It would be the chair or the treasurer or both would present on progress updates for the events and the budget. This will help keep communication and transparency, and it would provide perfect opportunity for questions and hold us accountable for everything that we're doing. We want to ensure that we are presenting to the town and not our own, we're representing you guys and not just our own self-interest. So, and that's all I have. Is there any questions?
Can you explain
Yep.
how what you're gonna do with this $3,500 in these events that you got down here? Because some of them are pretty, it's kind of significant. What do you hope to gain there?
So the 3,500 you're talking about, so the 3,500 is for us as the town, to be a sponsor of a group. So I know that in the past, Kiwanis has asked us to do the fish. So if they want to come to us with the cost of how much that's going to be in the future, then we'll have to, vote and approve that. Same with Main Street. So if Main Street wants us to put money towards a road closure or towards candy or towards trophies or whatever they're doing, we can try and figure out what that cost is going to be. It is 3,500 to me. Seems like it's going to be small for the amount that we're asking, but we wanted to see how successful it was this year. So
someone else is heading up these.
Someone else will be heading up those events, and then we'll just be a sponsor. Yep.
Civilian organization.
I'd just like to take a stab at it, and I really appreciate you did a great
Yeah.
job, Wyatt. So a lot of these events, like the fishing derby and the Halloween event, were planned into the CAC budget last year. But the problem with that is it didn't open up the opportunity for any other organization to come in and say, hey, we'd like to partner with you in an event. So what the CAC has in essence done said, instead of just saying we're going to put money towards this event or that event, we'll put a fund together, and then any organization who's putting on an event to the town can come and say, hey, we'd like you to, and then they can determine whether or not that would be a good representation. So it might still just be the Halloween event and then the fishing derby, but it would actually be a process. Instead of just saying we're only supporting these two events, it opens it up to other possibilities.
Let me give you an example. The fishing derby, I was there. Did you go?
I was out of town.
Okay. Did you go?
I did not go.
You guys didn't go. Okay. They don't need your help next year. How about that? But that's what they told me. Okay.
No, I don't agree with
That's what they
that.
said.
Well, that was a different time. I think what they're asking for is a contingency fund to have some discretion to collaborate with other groups in the community. They don't have to do the fishing derby. If
Okay.
it hasn't worked well, for
I'm
them,
not-
and they've put
That's
together
just an
a
example.
formal.
So if the Kiwanis does not want to work with the CAC or the town, then that's their
Okay. All right.
discretion.
That's what I'm getting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is
No, it's
up to
discretionary.
any
CAC,
organization. No.
It's discretionary to be collaborative with other groups.
Okay.
But they've put together a formal process for doing that. They're not going to just say, we're going to do this or that.
Yep.
They've really thought this out very well, how to put together a contingency section in their budget to collaborate with other groups in the
Yeah.
community. So I applaud that. That's excellent.
And I have a finance background, so I'm used to running a very tight budget. And if you feel like this is too small, I will obviously take more, but.
You have to take that all that up there.
No, it's, I mean, you guys will
Finance.
take this under consideration, and then you guys come back to us what you decide, and then we'll work from there. But as I said, this year, I'm not sure what organizations are going to approach us. I was not told that the Kiwanis did not want to work with the town next year, and if they don't, that's fine.
It
But
remains to be seen
Yeah,
what the feedback
yeah.
was as they got their sponsors.
Yeah. And some organizations
Like,
will,
I
but we
told
would
them-
like to create more of a collaborative effort, especially with the groups that are doing a lot of events. Like I know the Chamber of Commerce does a lot of events, Main Streets does a lot of events. We would like to create more of a collaborative effort between the three main groups that are doing it
Okay.
to have those
I'm really glad
sponsorships.
you put that Cinco de Mayo on here.
Yep, and I actually brought that up
Okay.
specifically for you because you brought that up in one of
Glad you
the
did
town
that.
board meetings a couple weeks ago. So
So
That's
I have a
pretty
question
important.
about that contingency fund and those collaborative groups. So is that open to church groups and maybe somebody wanting to try and start an event, or like how
Oh,
restrictive is it on the types of groups that can apply?
as long as
to-
we're not breaking any laws or going against anything that is, you know, I guess town policy or whatever, I don't see why a group couldn't approach us. We're not going to be able to, if we do 3,500, we're not going to be able to do, you know, if 50 groups approach us and they're looking at $10,000, there's no way we're going to be able to do that. So we're gonna have to figure that out. But that's what's nice about this is it's going to allow us to see what we're allowed to do for 2023. If this becomes a huge success, that's going to speak great to it. So if not, we'll just keep working on it. But this is a starter thing for us and we'll see what happens from there. Yeah.
So we will work, based on this information, we will work with the CAC to create some guidelines so that the town stays about resolve on these issues and things like that. I mean, there does need to be some guidelines set up and an application process. So we'll work with the CAC on that.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Any questions? No, sir.
So just a couple of comments. I know I was a part of the process, so I know one thing's with the music. So I know some of the talk was trying to get some live bands potentially. So that's why there was an increased cost for that, because prior we've just done like a DJ. This year there some discussion and trying to see if we can get some more live bands and things like that. So I think that's good. And then I very much appreciate the CAC's desire to come and present to the board. I think that's a great idea just to keep the board up to date on what's happening, what's going on. And I really applaud the CAC in putting that together. So very well done and looks good to me.
And on that last part, I just want to make sure that's for you guys to discuss, but I hope you know that we're willing to work with you on making sure that we're coming here and making sure we're being as transparent as possible through our process and our budget. So.
Well, that's a good comment there, because I would think that you would take care of all that. You already got it on here. What's that got? I mean, what's that got to do with us?
So I think that was one of the concerns that was raised by some members of our board is what exactly is the CAC doing? They are spending money. And I think that what we're seeing here prior in our meetings and our discussion at a work session about 2 months ago, there were concerns raised about what the CAC has been doing and them not being accountable. And I think what we're seeing here is the CAC bring up a desire to really step out and make sure that we are saying they are being transparent, they're doing well, and they're engaging with us. And just even if that's coming and give us an update every couple of months, I think it's not that they're going to come to us and ask us what to do. It's just they're going to come to us and let us know, hey, here's some of the things that are going on, simply like Dean does with the parks or Ross does with the library. I think that would be a good thing.
Okay, yeah, because I from my personal opinion, I wouldn't want to help you manage that 3,500. You know,
No.
we've got our own budgets.
Yeah. I mean, this is taxpayer dollars, so I want to make sure that I'm utilizing it, you know, as a board, that we're utilizing it well, and you guys are the ones who approve it. So obviously the only thing that would be a problem is if we ever went over the budget, we'd have to come to you guys, but we usually stick within the budget or come under the budget every year. So I'm not too worried about that.
I just have a question, and I don't know if anybody in this room can answer it. I don't know if Judy's online, but so as the board, when we approve a budget, it's pretty much etched in stone, line item by line item, what that money can be spent on, and it can't be just flip-flopped around unless the board approves that. Does the CAC have to follow those same type of guidelines, or are they free to spend the 35,000 in any way, shape, and form they choose without, following what their line item was?
So I think they're trying to get Judy. I know within the budget for the town, there's just one set line item for CAC.
Right.
I believe that it's just that event 3,500. Now, this is a public document. And so if you actually look on the, on the minutes from the meetings for the CAC, it has the budget and you can see what was approved in this format, what has been spent. So they actually do, the treasurer within the CAC does track what funds went against which thing out of that 35,000. I don't know if there's as required in terms of as strict as our town budget, because it's all under one line item in terms of CAC.
I was just wanting some clarification.
And I just wanted to point something out there. So anytime that does happen, so let's say we don't use enough money, we have a certain amount built for the Easter event. If we want to use some of that after we held that event and put it towards the 4th of July, we as the board do have to put that up for a vote to see where we're going to budget that at. So and then it gets moved around.
Okay.
And Trustee Jerome,
Sure, it's not working.
well, I didn't want to lean right into you. from what I understand, so these boards and commissions are an extension of this board. So they have to follow the same guidelines that we do. So that's why they have to take minutes and they have to put together a budget because they have to follow the same transparency requirements that we do.
Okay, well, if that is the case, then anytime that we make an adjustment from the budget, moving money from one line to another, that has to be taken to a vote.
Of their
Is that,
board.
is that from the Board of Trustees or would it be from the
That's my
CAC board
question.
itself? Okay.
That's my question.
Okay.
I just want clarity. I don't
Yeah.
know, so I'm
That's a
asking the
good
question.
That's good to know. So
And
in
if-
the
and
past,
if
we have
Judy-
not
we
done
can't
that.
get Judy
so-
on. If that's just something she could
Okay.
shoot an email about later, that's fine. I just want a little to know because, I mean, there are some goofy laws out there, so.
Well, at a bare minimum, it would at least be best practice. So if
Yeah,
you
yeah.
haven't been doing it, here's an
Well,
opportunity to do it
yeah,
moving forward.
And how we have been doing it is just we do the vote ourselves. We haven't been taking it to you guys, but we can if
Well,
that's the process.
I don't think
so-
that that's
Yeah, it
necessarily
would
what
just
I'm
be
saying.
us.
You do that
Within us.
within your group.
Yes, we do.
If you go over your $35,000 allotment, then bring it to us.
Yeah,
But if it's, if you have to move things around within the CAC's budget
Yeah.
to
we
different
vote on it.
categories, you need to be sure that you memorialize that approval within your budget and your board.
Correct.
Is that helpful?
Well, I have a question, since the question was directed at staff, maybe we could get a response from somebody in the staff.
Judy, are you on?
I am. So the answer is it will depend on what the board requests. In many cases, if you give the CAC the money and you say, here, you do with what you want, but if you give it to them with a direction that if you deviate from what you asked for, we need to know. So it's going to completely depend on what direction you give them. This is town money, so we have the right to set those parameters with how that money is dispersed.
Okay, thank you. That makes sense.
Well, my opinion is that I don't necessarily know that some sort of change in the CAC budget from taking an excess from one event and repurposing it, I don't think that raises to the level of Board of Trustees concerns, just like
And
the
I wasn't-
administrative closure.
I
of
don't
the
care
road.
one way or the other. I was just wondering if, because they are presenting an actual budget with actual line items, if that changed the complexion of, what has to be done or the requirements. I just wanted to make, find out since, just want to know. And if it doesn't, that's fine. I don't, I don't necessarily have an opinion one way or the other on that. I just was wanting some clarification because, we've found that things have been done wrong in the past and some different things. So that way we know for sure. But thank you, Judy.
You're welcome.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, thank you. I appreciate, if there's any other questions, I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
You do. You guys do a great job.
Thank you.
So this budget will be included in your budget document that you review at your retreat on October 9th.
That's right. Hundreds of pages, looking forward to it.
That's one we shouldn't have to.
Haggle over too bad.
Okay, we got another action item, or not, another presentation. The annual funding request, Wellington, Colorado Main Streets. Kallie.
Good evening, everybody. How's it going? Let me share my screen here for you. All right. My name is Kallie Cooper, Executive Director of the Wellington, Colorado Main Street Program. And tonight I am presenting our 2022 budget proposal. Before I do so, I want to give a little bit of a review of what we've done so far in 2021. So far this year, we've raised over $26,000 through downtown events. We have leveraged $15,000 in DOLA training funds through our Colorado Main Street program. We helped the town of Wellington secure $150,000 in grant funds through the Revitalizing Main Street program for downtown improvements. And we utilized $10,000 in DOLA mini grant dollars to support the matching funds for that grant. In addition, we've hosted 2 downtown cleanup days, logged over 1,000 volunteer. I'm most proud of. And we saw the completion of our downtown crosswalk project. And we've invested $12,000 into an exterior sign and awning grant that will go to directly support our downtown businesses. And additionally, we've invested $5,000 into the Byron White Memorial Project that will be completed next year.
Everybody know who Byron White is? Everybody knows.
If you don't, he was a Supreme Court Justice from Wellington. Carter Larson, who is Lou and Linda Kinsley's grandson, is doing the project as part of his Eagle Scout project. So we're really happy to support that. So our total funding request for 2022 is $77,500. I did include a pretty extensive breakdown of where those funds will be spent. This includes what we have as projected income for 2022, as well as what we anticipate spending in 2022. I did want to point out the difference between the 2021 budget and the 2022 budget. The biggest difference is going into 2021, we were really unsure of whether we were going to be able to do any events at all. And not really knowing what this year was going to look like. So we decided to pull out any projected event income or event expenses from that 2021 budget. So being hopeful for next year, we have put those back in. And so that's where the differences in those figures come from. And I'm here with any questions.
What a big jump, 2021, 2022, huh? You got some pretty big forecasts.
We do. We've got some great events coming up for next year. We are lucky enough to be the recipient of the Brewfest, the Wellington Brewfest funds, which is huge for our program, and we're really grateful for that. This year was an astronomical year for them. They nearly doubled their income from 2019. So we project that going forward, those will just continue to increase. And also, as of last year, at the end of last year, we are now a graduate Main Street program, which also increases those DOLA mini grant dollars that we get on an annual basis. So that went from 5,000 to 10,000.
Nice job. Anything, guys? Questions? No? Well, we look forward to it.
Thank you
for
so much.
everything.
And fingers crossed, we still
Yeah,
are
no,
waiting to hear on
Let
some
us
other
know when
grant
you-
funds as
let us know
well.
when you need help, because those are big forecasts. So let us know.
I will let you know.
Okay?
Thank you,
very much
everybody.
for all you do, and the whole board there as well. And the 1,000 hours of volunteers.
Again, the thing that I'm the most proud of. So thank you to all of our volunteers that have put in so many hours.
Absolutely. Okay,
Thank you.
appreciate it. Moving on, we have a consent agenda to approve tonight. This is September 14, 2021 Board of Trustees regular meeting minutes. Do we have any issues with this tonight that we need to bring up? Okay, if I'm not hearing anything to the contrary, can I get a motion to approve?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
trustee Jerome,
Yes.
trustee McDonald. Yes. Trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson. Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Okay, moving on to action items. Our first one tonight's a public hearing. Final plat of 7837 6th Street subdivision. It's going to be Cody Bird, our planner.
Thank you, Mayor and board members. Cody Bird, Planning Director. Just about got this ready to view. There we go. So wanted to just highlight real quickly tonight, the action item that I'm presenting is a request for a final plat. It's basically a simple lot split, creating two lots from one. The action item in your agenda report was actually split into two parts tonight. We're going to try this a little differently. The first part, we're going to conduct the public hearing for this agenda item. And then the second part is the action, if you decide to approve the plat, has the ordinance for that approval. So just a little bit different process. Just a quick reminder for the public hearing format, staff will provide a quick presentation. The applicant will have an opportunity to share any additional information if they choose to do so. And then you can ask any high-level general questions. Then you'll give an opportunity to the public to provide public comment. And following the close of the public hearing, the applicant would have an opportunity to respond to any comments, and staff would have any closing remarks. And then the board can have deliberations following the close of the public hearing. Then we'll go to the second action item, which would be the actual adoption of the ordinance if you choose to approve. Any questions on the format for public hearing procedures? Very good. So moving right along, this particular final plat for a minor subdivision request is being presented by Wellington Properties LLC. Wayne Jensen is one of the owners of that and is here tonight to present or respond to any questions as needed. United Civil did the drawings and the surveying work. They're not here this evening, but they would be happy to respond to any questions if needed. There's a little bit of a lag. There we go. So here's your location map. The property is highlighted in yellow. It's located on the west side of 6th Street, right across from the hotel. The current tenant on the property is Wellington Vet Hospital, and that would become lot 1 of the proposed subdivision, and lot 2 would be just south of the vet hospital. The current map showing here, I included the zoning map for reference so you can see the property is zoned C1 community commercial. It permits a range of uses, but it's generally oriented towards a neighborhood character as opposed to like a highway automobile oriented nature. The proposed lots that would be created by this subdivision plat would support the type of development that the zoning allows. So that's pretty easy to say that that criteria is being met. The existing zoning would not be affected by the subdivision plat. I think I may have covered some of this. In fact, I have covered most of it. One of the things that we did ask the applicant to do, this is about a 2.6 acre property currently. We asked the applicant to demonstrate that if they subdivide the property, would actually have enough space to physically support a new commercial development. One of the concerns that staff had was the property has Coal Creek that crosses through there. And so there's some floodplain implications. We wanted to see conceptually if it was actually possible to construct a new building and meet the required parking and circulation requirements for our regulations to actually be a viable project. We didn't want to approve a lot that was going to be too small to actually develop. So the applicant and through their consultant, United Civil Design Group, did provide us a conceptual. I've thrown it in your packet just for illustrative purposes. So this is just conceptual. This is not the proposed site development plan, but we wanted to include it to show the proportional relationship of the Wellington Vet Hospital, the proposed property line running east to west. This is oriented sideways as the north arrow lies. And then of course, Coal Creek floodplain. And then this is the proposed development with parking, circulation, building pad site, all outside the regulatory floodway. So staff was satisfied. Yes, it's possible to do a significant, meaningful commercial development here. The Planning Commission considered the plat for this request September 13th. The Planning Commission, following public hearing, voted to recommend approval of the final plat. There was one public hearing comment at the Planning Commission meeting. The property owner immediately south of this property had raised some questions about drainage impacts from development. We reached out via letter to the property owner to invite a meeting with town staff to further discuss that. We've not heard back from that property owner as of yet. So we'll continue to try to reach out to them and address their drainage concerns. The proposed development of the site, when property development plans are presented, staff is highly confident that the drainage impacts from a property that close to the floodway is not going to have significant downstream impacts for that property owner. And we would obviously evaluate that further upon a site-specific development request. At the planning commission meeting, there were a few items that were identified that needed to be corrected on the plat, pretty minor corrections, some labeling, verification data was correct, names, spelling, just a couple of very minor things that are easily correctable, and staff will check for those things. One other thing that I wanted to draw attention to for this particular planning commission consideration, staff had recommended dedicating a joint and cross lot access and parking easement between these two properties. Staff's concern was down the road, we wanted to make sure that both properties have adequate parking to meet their needs. And one of the ways that you do that is to enter into a shared parking arrangement where the high volume hours for one business offset the low hour business hours for another business, so that in total there'd be enough parking spaces regardless of where the property line falls. And having further conversations with the property owner, they're generally happy to work with town staff to do that, but they've got some concerns with existing client relationships with a tenant that they don't want to cause to go south. And so they've asked if we could push that parking piece down the road until they have an actual site development proposal, and they can actually determine what the true parking needs would be for that user. And staff is generally accepting to that proposal. We think that's a fair request to allow that parking consideration to be handled at the time of site development when a specific user is proposed. We did talk through with the owner and suggest that it would be a wise idea to go ahead and dedicate emergency access cross lot to accommodate that component for the future, because that's the time to do it, is at the plat. The parking we can address down the road. And I might have jumped ahead of the slide. This slide is just referencing the public comment that we heard at the planning commission meeting. We haven't received any other public comments since then as of tonight. And then of course, after public hearing and deliberations, the board can choose to approve a plat. You can approve a plat with conditions. You could table it to a later date if you want to send it back to the planning commission for consideration. You have those options available to you. Staff does recommend approval of this plat, and the planning commission recommended this approval as well. So that's the gist of the staff report. And then I wanted to give Mr. Jensen an opportunity, if there was any additional information that he'd like to share, this would be a good time to do that. And you don't have to if you don't have anything. Thank you, Mr. Jensen. So I'll stand for any questions. Mr. Jensen's available for any questions as well.
Questions on this side?
On the conceptual plan with, where the building and parking lot and the access road, I mean, they are significantly impacted by the floodplain.
Pretty close.
And I've driven by there after a major rainfall, and that entire lower level, the floodplain area is, I've never walked out there to measure how deep it is, but I'm guessing it's probably a foot or two deep. What impacts and what regulatory agencies would have to be involved if they chose to build what's conceptual here, to make adjustments to that? Because obviously they wouldn't want to build a road in a building that was in a floodplain where, every time it rains any good amount, that is completely flooded out. So I guess that's my biggest concern is, what all is going to be involved with dealing with that floodplain, and how can they legally move it? Or is there is that CDHP or whoever that has to get involved, or I'm not sure. So that's my question is,
Sure.
What kind of is the thought process for, that floodplain, and knowing the significant amount of water that flows through there on good rains, which we've had a couple, 3 or 4 this year. So
Yeah.
That's my big concern.
Yeah, thanks, Trustee Jerome. It's a great question, because staff had the same concern. That's why we asked for this conceptual plan. And I wish I had a laser pointer or something here, because the cursor doesn't really do it great justice. But if you look on the screen behind you, this dashed line, this is the regulatory floodplain that is in question. That's existing today. And then this longer dashed line is the 500-year floodplain. So they can do some fill in the 500-year floodplain and not in the 100-year. And that's what we're looking for. Can they develop the site without impacting that regulatory floodplain? So they have done that. They'll have to submit a final grading plan as part of a site development proposal to verify that all of this works. And if you're familiar with the site from driving down 6th Street, just south of the vet clinic, this is kind of the high point. It's about the same grade as the existing grade for the vet hospital. So what they're showing for the development, the future conceptual development, is at the highest point and outside the regulatory floodway. So obviously, as part of a development proposal, we'd have to evaluate the final and true proposal, but we're confident that it would be possible to do that. This particular image is showing a 2,000 square foot building, which would be enough square footage to accommodate a number of retail uses, a small restaurant, some other options as well. So it's a great question. It was one of staff's concerns also, but based on what they've laid out, it's very realistic that we could approve a development plan for the site. And the access, you mentioned that as well. So the shaded area, you can see where they're proposing tying back over to, or at least preserving the opportunity. Wouldn't necessarily be a requirement. We have to evaluate the final development proposal. But this area is an existing driveway for the vet hospital. And the concept, at least, is to tie that together to allow this circulation to go through, at least for emergency services, possibly down the road for clients, customers, employees as well.
So wait and see. That's what we're gonna do, wait and see.
For the final development request, yes, that's the proposal. For tonight, the applicant is requesting and staff is recommending approval of the plat, which would simply identify, this is a snapshot of the drawing from the plat. Doesn't have all the dedication language on it, but this would generate this parcel and this parcel.
And that's all we're really concerned with tonight, is that plat right there. not that.
Right. Basically, if you boiled it down to it, the request is to consider, is it acceptable to divide this one lot into 2 lots to accommodate that future development?
Anything over here?
Well, sure.
One concern, okay, we were at the planning commission. The man got up and told us about he's on the tail end of all this construction, how now we're getting pavement in there and all these gutters and everything, And I mean, have we gone down there and looked at this and seen what's happening? Because it's just more, I would imagine we just add more to that problem down there, right?
It probably wouldn't, and I'm not the drainage expert here, but I'll tell you real generally, when you're this close to a floodplain, the surface water runoff from a site this close to the creek, it runs off very quickly and it's downstream. The larger impacts that you see where the water backs up is from upstream flows, and that's the peak. It's all hitting that downstream at the same time. So development close to the site the water's gonna be gone before the peak hits.
I would imagine that we were gonna do some diligence down there and check that culvert down and make sure it's big enough to get underneath. What's the name of that road? Jefferson?
And yeah,
Is that the one that's
there's
backing
some,
it up?
there's some split flows here. It goes in 2 different directions, and the property immediately south of this is actually in the floodplain.
Sure.
So there's an there that isn't going to be solved by this development because the property is already in the
It
floodplain.
doesn't impact. It doesn't impact.
We will make sure as part of the final development request that the drainage plan does not impact downstream properties.
All right, I got nothing else to add here. Then let's open it up for public comment. Anyone wish to talk about this proposed plat review? All right, we'll close that port, bring it back to the board. Applicant, any further comments from the applicant? Anything at all, sir? You're good? Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Move on to the next item.
Do we not need to?
Yeah.
The next item.
Okay.
Yeah.
We threw you a curveball tonight.
Point of order.
We
We're
threw
gonna
you a
move on to
curveball.
item 3. This is ordinance number 11-2021, approving the final plat of 7837 6th Street subdivision that we just talked about.
And just real quickly, from a staff perspective, I didn't include all of the same documents for the second half of this agenda item. Obviously, everything from the prior one applies here. And we did include the ordinance in this package with the second report. So if there's any questions regarding the ordinance or your procedures, I'd be happy to answer those.
Just to clarify, I know that at the request, it sounds like if the applicant was to pull out the requirement of splitting and parking from the plat portion, that is not included in this ordinance, correct? The
Correct.
parking will be dealt with later in development.
Correct. And to your point, trustee Gator, the ordinance doesn't specify that language. That language would be placed on the face of the plat, so on the document itself. And what we're asking for is to allow staff and the applicant with the attorney's review to put that language correctly on there that removes the parking component.
Okay, board members, got anything you want to add further to the ordinance that we're going to consider? Decide? Okay, public comment? No, let's bring it back to the board. If I got nothing else to say, can I get a motion to approve the ordinance 11-2021, final plat of 7837?
So moved. Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
trustee Jerome,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Thank you, Cody. Thank you, sir. Okay, we'll move on. Item 4 is the crack seal contract award. Bob with Public Works, the director, is going to talk about it.
Good evening, Mayor and trustees. I'm Bob Gowing, Public Works Director. Here to discuss our crack seal project. This is an annual kind of ongoing project where we go in and seal up cracks in asphalt paving. Those cracks form naturally and they need to be sealed up because they'll let water into the subgrade and that will ultimately accelerate the deterioration of the asphalt. So for this particular year, we had budgeted $71,461. We, to be in accordance with our purchasing guidelines, we put together kind of a package. Here's how many feet of crack seal we want. We solicited bids directly from three crack seal companies and made follow-up calls. And over the course of about 6 weeks, we're only able to gather up one bid, unfortunately. Fortunately, that's from a company that's worked with us for many years on this project, where they're familiar with our streets and our needs, and we're familiar with the quality of their work as well. That bid was for $60,580. You'll see that there's a sole source memo attached to this item as well. So what we would request tonight is that you authorize staff to contract affordable sealing and striping Inc. in a not to exceed amount of $71,461, which again is the budgeted amount. We have a lot of crack seal needs throughout town, so we would like to go ahead and spend up the budget and address as much of this kind of ongoing problem as we can this year. And I can answer any questions.
I did have a question. I was curious to know was any reason given by other companies why they wouldn't bid? Maybe it's too small of a project.
We got a call back from one who said, yes, we're interested. We called him back 2 or 3 weeks later and we never got a response. So I think it's simply because they're too busy. Yeah. When you don't get calls back, that's usually a pretty good sign that they don't need that work right now.
Is there a list of streets or a map of
We
what?
as part of the only drive or walk all of the areas that we're talking about, and they're basically the worst areas, discrete areas around town that we're aware of, and we'll get their advice in terms of really leverage off their expertise in crack sealing And really the point of that is to get the most bang for the buck. So we do have general areas that we're looking for, but we haven't actually gone out and measured every inch of crack in all those streets. So that'll be another thing that we have to kind of monitor as the project goes along, make sure we don't go over budget.
Thank you. Trustee Gator got something?
Yeah, so just a clarification, because I know, and just to make sure I understand correctly, so the contract is for 60,000, the budget item is for 71,000. And am I understanding correctly, the goal is to try and do more work if possible, even beyond that 60,000 up to the 71, just to get it all done because it needs to be done. Is that correct?
Yes, that's
Okay.
correct.
Okay.
We had to kind of carve out a chunk and define a chunk to get apples to apples bids. It came in a little bit lower than we anticipated, so we would like to go ahead and either, revise this contract or execute a change order to get to the kind of the full amount of the budget.
Okay. Got a public comment on this issue? Okay, it doesn't look like it. We'll bring it back to the board for approval. Can I get a motion to approve the crack seal contract award and not to exceed 71,000? Is that correct? 461. Missed that part. I'm an estimator. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Gator,
Yes.
trustee Jerome,
Yes.
trustee McDonald,
Yes.
trustee Whitehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Knutson,
Yes.
Mayor Hammond.
Yes. Thank you, Bob. Okay, item 5. 3749 Harrison Avenue expansion update presentation from our Deputy Town Administrator, Kallie Hodling. Hello.
Good evening, Mayor and Board of Trustees. Good to see you all in person for first time in a while. Before you tonight is an update on 3749 Harrison Avenue and a discussion about the recent change orders. The change orders are all related to the current structure, the current home, except for the flooding item. To give a little bit of background, we had not intentionally, we had never planned at the beginning to mess with that current structure, but here we are today. We have change orders associated with that and the additional change orders with the flooding item. The reason why we didn't, if we were a different developer in town, I think some people might have made a call to just demo that entire structure, the current house, because it was built in 1905. But we were trying to be good stewards, respect the historic nature of that area. We know that there was a lot of community concern about Harrison Avenue. And so what we were trying to do at that time is ease the transition from Harrison to a 2-story building off of Sol de Jalisco. So kind of a smooth transition of Harrison to a 2-story where we have more commercial downtown. So again, our initial intent was not to mess with that current structure, but we do have change orders associated with that. And that's why we're here today. So I'll just review attachment A that you have in your packet and go through all of the current change orders. So we have one for the mudroom and foundation. That was not originally included in the scope of work. We had no plans to modify that. It was discovered that that mudroom was essentially built on rubble and it was unsafe. And included in that cost of the change order is also to build it back. So I think the description was slightly misleading. It's to expand out that building to provide additional storage. So it's not just a demo off completely. It's also to build back the structure on that one. Our team was negotiating with DS Constructors. They had originally included 2.5 weeks of GCs, and that means general conditions, which is essentially your operating costs. So things in GCs include staff time, the job trailer, porta potties, copier, internet. I have the complete list if you're interested. So we negotiated that down to 1 week of GCs on that change order. The next one is the furnace demo and replacement. Again, that was not in the original scope of work for this project. We had intended to keep that heater. I think our staff, when they were operating in that building during the winter months, realized it really wasn't working. So that cost is to replace it. So taking everything out, demoing it, new duct work, and then the new furnace cost with the replacement. The next one is footing replacement. According to DSC, the conditions on the south wall foundation of the current house were unknown once they started to remove 5 layers of the patio that was out back, which we also discovered the cistern at that juncture. So that would be to replace the footing replacement at that area on the south wall of the current home. The final one is site flooding. This was caused on July 31st. We had that flooding that came into town. So this is the cost for dewatering, reconditioning soils and testing. They did include originally 2 weeks of GCs, and then we negotiated that down as well. So initially they had about $94,000 in change orders. We got that down to $81,000 today. At this point, I'll open it up to the board with questions. Staff isn't happy with some of these, obviously, and no one likes to see change orders, but we did want to be very upfront with the costs that we have and seek direction from the board.
Trustee Whitehouse, want to start it off? Whitehouse. Trustee Wyatt, I know. Whitehouse, Wyatt. Sorry. Trustee Knudsen. Sorry about that.
So have you communicated with DS since our last meeting?
No, not in terms of the change orders, or I've had communications with them, but what in particular?
Negotiating some of those other items that we talked about.
Waiting for complete board direction on that.
Okay. So to kind of break it down, the mudroom thing was kind of an unforeseen. Had we included that in the contract documents, we'd be paying for the framing, the foundation, those components of it. So that's why we're basically just negotiating the GC fees on it. Should have been part of their original contract. So hopefully we can get those down, or that was our recommendation. The HVC stuff was a new swap replacement, so that's a true cost. So there's not a whole lot of negotiating there. The existing foundation stuff we did talk about, even though they kind of argued that it was not visible, it was from inside the existing residence. So we think they should have picked up on that one. So there's some cost share in that. There would have been costs to replace it anyway. So we're kind of working our way through that one. And then also on the flooding, you know, they kind of left that hole exposed, maybe started a little too soon for their foundation crew to get in there. So we're looking for some compensation there as well. So what we had pitched to them, or what I had pitched, was basically give us that additional 1 week of GC back on the mudroom. The HVAC we were going to pay for anyway. The foundation stuff, somewhat of a split, and then the flooding to give us back the GC, the 1 week or whatever's remaining on that as well. So probably another 10 to 12,000
Maybe
negotiated
10
out
or
of
so to knock off. And what about insurance for our flooding? Is that a possibility?
I could look into that.
And certainly we got insurance on the property.
Yeah, it's a construction site. I don't think that. Mm-mm.
Is that a no?
Here to say, yes, that would generally be a no. Yell from back there. He's giving me the evil eye.
Getting your steps in.
So I don't know, in the construction world, is that fairly typical that when you have a natural event like that, that the person building the project ends up having to pay for it? Or is that something contractors? I don't know. I don't work in that world.
Well, go ahead.
The gods are a little
It's act of God,
tricky to
but-
deal
but
with.
That's why I thought we might have our own insurance encompassing the development of the project.
I've understood now. I've understood now that since it was a construction project.
Okay, well,
I think the actual language they used was what, force majeure or something? My
Force
Lat-
majeure, yeah.
Yeah, my Latin might not be right, but
that would not be right. It's an act of God. Force majeure is what I do, okay? Not good. I just would think that we would have insurance. I'm surprised that we don't. I mean, that being that close to the existing structure, and it was flooding, you know, even though it's constructed. I don't know. Okay. I mean, what do you have to say? You were in a meeting too as well?
yeah, I mean, I think some of the stuff wasn't, as Ms. Hodling suggested, wasn't The original thing of $61,000, I thought was to tear off this little 100 square foot building. And I'm going, you can build a 2-car garage for that. There's a lot more than that. It's taking it off, it's redesigning it, it's the new footings. And again, the way it was, I was scratching my head because I said, I would have done it for a sixth of that, but there was a lot more to it. It's taking it off and redesigning it. And that actually, you start to look at those costs, they seemed reasonable, you know, I think there was also some construction material increases that I inquired about. Building in this market right now is really hard. I've had suppliers say, I don't know when the material is going to show up and I don't know how much it's going to cost, which is really hard to plan. So there is certainly some market volatility, which is included in the pricing of materials, which I'm not sure where that number is, but it was provided to me. So it's a hard time to build. Yeah, but I think Trustee Knutsen's suggestions about how to approach and have this discussion, I think we really want to have a negotiated settlement. We're stuck with this dance partner and they're stuck with us, so we just got to get through it because we need the space.
Unfortunately, the contract's not really weighted heavily in our favor. That's just the way it is. But you guys have had some conversations about the rest of the future change orders that are pending, that are coming. We're not done. They're going to come. What's your plan for that?
I did get a call today about another change order for the current roof, which that was one of my concerns. Again, just opening up a structure. The plan is to take it from a flat roof to a more of a pitch. That change order is $4,800. There's just additional shoring that they need on that. So that was one more that came in today. And I said, we're not doing any more of these calls again. So I hope that there's not any more change orders, but I can't guarantee that.
So I had a question. I know on some of our contracts, it's required to have open books so we see what their profit is, what their cost is, et cetera. Is that the case with this? So we can make sure that they're not, charging us one thing for materials and then wildly profiting, or is this not the case with this project?
That was a big part of you go ahead.
You can continue.
That was a big part of our negotiation that we've had and conversation over the last month is we wanted to see the breakdown because it is a little bit concerning when you just see framing and something lump sum, and it feels like it's not broken down into unit cost. So we had them include backup information so you could see the true cost that they were carrying it over. There is a line in our contract that speaks to that there's a percentage of profit that you get with any change order. That was written into there within our own contract, 10%. And then we did get the breakdown completely of the GC's general conditions. So we know line by line what everything costs within that.
And we're tax exempt, right?
Okay, so when we're looking at these numbers, again, I've been in these meetings, so we are making sure that when we are coming in these change orders, it's at cost plus whatever the required thing is. We're not, I just want to make sure, and I get it, it's a bad market, but I want to make sure that they're not taking us to the bank to cover themselves and they're coming out like champs on the other end. If it's hurting us, it needs to be shared on both sides.
That was part of the concern with the GC cost too, because they have those in there, but then underneath it, they also have their general condition costs, which are their profit overhead, insurance, bonding, that type of stuff. So we want to make sure they weren't double dipping on it.
And we did. That's part of their 10%, right?
No, the GC costs are the actual, the job site construction costs. So
Okay,
what
general conditions.
Kelly explained, and then the general conditions are the 10% and the bonding and insurance.
Oh.
I guess the only other question I have is, we've already had $181,000 that we approved earlier in the year to cover costs of materials. Where are we planning to take this other, potentially up to 81,498 from? What other projects are we going to take that out of?
For this year, our plan at this point is to request the board during our budget session to build in the cost for 2022's budget. Not all of our bills are going to hit between the end of the year. So our plan is to spend the 1.3 million in 2021 and budget the additional in 2022.
The only comments I would make would be kind of an agreement with trustee Knutson about the flooding and the foundation issue. I mean, just because they missed it doesn't make it our fault. And as far as all the construction I've ever been involved in, as a general contractor, if we were doing work on a site, it was our responsibility to protect that site from all weather conditions, regardless if we can see them coming or not. In fact, we were building a home and we had a freak rainstorm and it blew out an entire back wall of the foundation that we had to eat it because, you know, we were still in control of that site. So those two things I'd really like to be pushed hard against back to see if we can get any concessions. Because I just believe, you know, if you're a general contractor and you're in charge of that site, you know, you have to put the fence up, you have to keep it safe. So that's one of the safe items is protect it from flooding. And then, you know, just because somebody didn't go in the basement and look at a foundation when they bid, that's not our fault. That, you know, they should have done their due diligence. So those two items are very sticky right now in my mind, so.
Yeah, I mean, one of the considerations or one of the comments, we had a meeting a few days ago and there was, and I can't verify this, but they had suggested that the flooding of the foundation was due to the water on 3rd Street overtopping the sidewalks and running into that. I don't know if that's true. That is, I think there was a mention of that. So,
well, it's a convenient, you know, conveniently happened, but you would think there'd be signs of previous problems. And it sounds like there is signs of previous problems.
There's some stuff they could have done, yeah.
Okay.
If it did indeed overtop 3rd, that one would be a hard one to protect against, but
Right.
I don't know. And I didn't drive by and I didn't see it, but there would have been some major washout on at least on the east side of the project if
Right.
it did indeed come from 3rd.
Sure.
I didn't notice that.
No, it's what the contract says. I mean, do they have weather protection or not? I usually get mine excluded.
I think there's a lot of things we'd like to have seen in this contract that maybe aren't addressed clearly.
So do we have, I mean, was this our contract? Was it their contract? Do we, maybe we have a better one, maybe not the standard engineering one that we see for the big infrastructure projects, but you know, I'm wondering if this could be tuned up, or I'm not sure where the contract came from. So if we need a better one or.
We will do something differently on any further projects. Thank you.
Thank you.
So I guess my only thought, I guess, or concern is that it sounds like there's still some things that we're trying to work through to get to things finalized. So I don't know that I would feel comfortable approving these until we are able to get that narrowed down.
I don't think we're voting on anything tonight.
It's okay. So it's not an action item. Okay.
And-
Okay.
and
Got
When
great.
Ms. Hoagland also mentioned that I think this amount of money is going to be part of the next budgeting process. So we'll have some more time on our lovely Saturday to fight.
Yeah, I get that on the
if we want.
budget side. Or do the board have to approve these change orders, or is that a staff thing and we just have to work in budgeting for finance? Because that's where I'm a little
So-
confused as to what we're being asked.
I think I'd have that question as well. Because especially on the mudroom, they've stopped work. They're not doing anything until they get additional authorization. Some of these things have already happened. But I think that one in particular, I'm just not sure what kind of direction we need looking at.
I agree, because because some of these items had to be done. I mean, we were already in process. The project had to continue to move forward. So they did start working on a lot of this. We would like some verbal authorization to move forward. I think I'm not comfortable. It's not in the purchasing policy. I don't have the authorization to sign off on amounts of this like this, such as like if the roof item, that's $4,600. That's within my scope and I could sign off on something like that. But these larger items, I don't have the ability to do that. So, so they have stopped work on some of it. Is that what you're
On
telling
the
me?
mudroom, yes, they've not done any additional work on that because that was an item that we were trying to negotiate. Maybe the board could give direction to approve the change orders pending staff doing additional negotiation as mentioned with some of those general conditions. Would that be?
Or would it be acceptable to
Amenable.
approve the change order for the mudroom and the HVAC and negotiate the other two items?
So are those the two that really, those are just things that there was nothing that really could have been done on those otherwise? I don't think I would have much of a problem with that if we can maybe do those and then come back on the other ones.
We could do that.
I'm,
If that would allow them to proceed.
yeah,
because
I
we
feel the
approved
same way
mudroom.
too, as long as that foundation piece isn't gonna hold up significantly any more progress.
I think it's already done, isn't it?
On the site or footing replacement, that one, that's done.
Yeah.
Mhm.
No, I meant the other foundation, wasn't there
Oh.
a second foundation?
No, that's it.
Oh, that was
Yeah.
it. Okay.
Yep, that was it.
So you can argue about that, yeah.
There was some foundational stuff in the mudroom, but that was stuff that
That was
said,
part of demo and the other. Yeah.
okay, and that was stuff that they couldn't have known about
Mhm.
ahead of time. Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with all that, because if
Okay.
they've already done it, we can negotiate on
Those
that.
two things there, you can actually argue about at the end. Like the ones that they're just on.
Correct,
Yeah,
Bad play.
we can do that.
correct.
So basically, we would be approving the change orders for the mudroom and then the furnace, and then directing staff to come back, continue to negotiate with Mayor Pro Tem and Trustee Whitehouse and see what we can do on the other stuff. Sure.
Thank you.
But you brought up a good point on these future change orders that you have the ability to sign off on. They're gonna come. So what did you think in there? You just gonna do that?
I will definitely notify the trustees as it happens. If there's anything that we are concerned about or something that looks inappropriate, then we'll definitely, I mean, we have Bob and Alex both also looking at all the change orders and had Alex look at the roof one today. So we're moving forward. You know, I think it's important. I think one of the things about the roof change order today was it needed to get covered or something because we're expecting some weather.
It would have been
Correct.
left open.
Yeah, but
all
would have
They need to
been,
get the structure dried in so they
Right.
can continue with electrical. and-
thank you.
Yes.
Yes, so we had to go on ahead and get that taken care of. We certainly didn't want to lose all the work that had already been done just because we had $4,800 and a change order that, you know, we had to wait to get approved. So this is an interesting project. I haven't, the contract is interesting. It's all a little different. So we're muddling through. Kelly's doing a great job of trying to keep me in the loop and keeping Bob and Alex involved. So we'll take care of looking at these other general conditions and see what we can take care of. And get the two change orders signed off and ready to move forward. Sound good?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, thanks.
That does it for action items. We're into the reports now. Town attorney, got anything, Dan?
Nothing for me.
Okay, town administrator, anything, Bernard?
I wanted to thank Crystal for all her work in putting together the advisory board and commission appreciation dinner last night. It was really
Yes.
fun. There was great turnout and I really appreciated
Yes, thank
everybody
you
that
for doing
participated.
I'm glad we did that. Glad we did that.
And this is Dan's last night until baby. So.
Right.
So this is a big deal. Baby number 2 will be coming in 2 days.
Number two,
Maybe
you're
one day.
fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
Troy's the top of the list on names, so.
Baby Troy, that it? That's what it is now.
So.
You're gonna have to do it now, because we'll just refer to your baby as Baby Troy from now on.
Baby Troy.
All right, good. Let's move on. Anything from the staff? Bob, you want to come back up here or no? You good? Okay. Laramie County Sheriff's got anything tonight, sir? No, sir. Thank you, sir, very much for all you do. Oh, we're into something else. Are we going to talk about Timming?
Yes.
Okay.
I was trying to remember, I knew in in board reports, I had something to talk about, but
There you go.
I
Okay.
appreciate you bringing that to my attention. A few months ago, trustee Kinney and I met with Casey Hendricks with the Boys and Girls Club. And during that conversation, she asked, what is the town doing with the Thimming property or the Timming property? And I said, you know, I don't know. She's all, would you be interested in selling it? And I said, I don't know. I'd be happy to take it back to the board and open it up for conversation. So I know it is one of the locations that had been considered in the past for future town hall site. It's also been designated as highway commercial development. But it's been a while since we've had a conversation about that piece of property. And I think that the other two parties that own the property may have some interest in doing something with it, whether it's selling or developing. I'm not entirely sure, but they wanted to see if we would be interested in opening conversation about the future of the Thimming property.
I'm all for it. Anybody got any questions on that?
I mean, I don't see any reason for us to be holding on to prime highway commercial property. And in terms of, I know it's been considered for a town hall site, but I think that would be a really lousy thing for us to put on prime commercial property. So we could find somewhere else to put a town hall. So I would think that'd be a great idea. And again, that opens that up for Boys and Girls Club. I know they've come to us about funding. Well, we can sell a property. That's a great source of funding for them right there. And I'm sure that the church who owns another portion of that property would love to be able to maybe sell their portion as well. So I think that would be great to enter in those discussions.
The northern parcel says Wellington Community Church. That is currently on the market. Isn't there a sign out there? And what are they asking for that parcel? For 9 acres? Yeah, I think they're asking price. I think that's why it's not moving.
Yeah, I'm not sure. And you know, that's a conversation for another day.
What-
I
was
think
she-
that what,
Sorry.
Go
was
ahead.
she asking you if we wanted to sell back to them?
no, she was asking if we, she'd had conversation, the Boys and Girls Club had conversations with the church. And they were wondering if we were interested in selling the parcels as an entirety, I believe. So before I speak too much about the details relative to that, because it can change too in between yesterday and today, they just wanted to know specifically if this board was interested in revisiting keeping it or selling it.
You heard what I'm all for someone look at it. It's not doing anything. They do something at some point.
So maybe we can have a future work session with
Absolutely.
everybody
Do
involved.
something. It's just sitting there. Maybe try.
Yeah, the other,
Yeah, it's been back and forth a couple times.
yeah, the other challenge with the property is it's currently zone transitional, which scares away a lot of people because they don't know whether or not they can or can't do something. So that will be addressed once the land use code is done. But until that time, it's still challenging for people to purchase the property because they don't know whether or not they can actually do anything with it because it's transitional.
Again, it doesn't have any services there. You gotta bring the services.
So real quick, before we get too ahead of ourselves, if it's okay, I would like to ask the opinion of Cody Bird because he is our town planner.
yeah,
And just make sure that there isn't something that he has that parcel or has any plans for that in the future.
Cody Bird, town planner. I don't have that kind of money, so I don't have any plans for it. But
Recreational facility?
yeah. But no, I think I appreciate the question. What I would offer is, trustee Gator's correct. It is currently zone transitional. One of the recommendations of our land use code update is to eliminate that zone district. It would likely be under our current zoning structure, would be highway commercial C3 zoning, which would support a wide range of retail uses. I do think that's the highest and best use for the property along 6th Street there. I think there is definitely some concern that we need to address some buffering for the existing residential properties to the south, but that can be accomplished as part of a site development plan. So I think that the highway commercial or mixed use zone district would be appropriate for that property.
So question, Cody, on that, if, again, obviously, I know this is more details, so maybe this isn't the time, but would it make sense? 'Cause I know we're looking at several months with the land use code. That's not something that's going to be imminently changed. I'm assuming beginning of next year, probably. Does it make sense for us to rezone this as highway commercial prior to that land use code coming out if there is a decision made to move forward with selling that, or just wait for the land use code and leave it as transitional?
I think I'm going back to one of the discussions amongst the Board of Trustees on a zone change for that property in the past. And one of the overriding factors was that there was concern that changing the zoning for one parcel would create fragmentation where you wouldn't get an appropriate development site for that important of a corridor. And so the concern was really that any zone change should be considered as part of an overall development request. And I think that was a really legitimate comment that was made by a commissioner, or excuse me, a board member at that time, was understanding the total development picture before authorizing the zone change for something that could open it up to something that wasn't maybe the right fit.
So just to clarify, I don't understand the land use code is still in process, but I believe our comprehensive plan, which was approved by the planning commission, does designate this area as kind of that highway commercial. Is that correct?
Yes, the comprehensive plan that was just adopted identifies this as commercial. And I brought that page with me just in case the question came up. So one of the intended character of that commercial future land use category includes various retail and services, including shopping areas, gyms, hospitality, lodging, entertainment, medical, social services. It could include mixed use, and it's intended for these areas along I-25 and State Highway 1. So it's definitely within the contemplated land use categories of the comprehensive plan.
Yeah, and so I guess that was just my thought, not just to do like the one portion, but if all parties are wanting to sell that, both parcels, rezone them all to that highway commercial, and then if someone wanted to purchase the whole thing. And that would be, while it might not be specific to a development, it is consistent with our comprehensive plan, which I think is ultimately we are looking for development to come to match that comprehensive plan, which was kind of the point of the plan. So that was just a thought process there.
I think it's a good thought. And one thing that, and I'm not the writer of contracts, I think we could get some guidance from our legal office or others with property contract writing. I think it'd be possible to write that as a contingency if the properties were listed jointly and there was one buyer that was interested in those, that the parties all agreed to that zone change to accommodate the intent, the agreed upon purchaser. I think it'd be something that could contractually be written in a way that would allow that flexibility where you wouldn't deter a buyer from looking at it.
Okay, I think we're all ready for a conversation down the road, sounds like.
Sounds like a future
Yeah.
work session item.
Yeah, I think so. We need to readdress it. It's just sitting there doing nothing. It's 3 lots. Some of it's got to be replatted and everything. Okay. Anything from the board? I guess we got a Colorado Municipal League Annual Conference on here.
Yeah, so question on that, because I know trustee Kinney's not here. Did we want to maybe push that to our next meeting so she can be here and we can both
Yeah,
give our
she
thoughts
went
at the
to
same
that
time?
thing. Yeah, she'd like to comment.
Okay,
on that, don't
yeah, I
you?
know we both came away with, there's a lot of good, we had made good connections, had learned a lot and have a lot to bring back, but we'll push that to next meeting. That way trustee Kinney can be here as well, because I know she and I both have pages of notes.
Do you want to share some of those before we have the meeting? Or are we going to have do you want a work session on that? Is it that much?
No, I think like 5 to 10 minutes
Okay.
at the end of a meeting. Yeah, we don't, I mean, I'm happy to
I
take
can do
more
5 to
meetings.
10.
Yeah.
Okay. Look forward to hearing it. All right. Anything else, guys? No? Okay. All right then, I've got 7:57. Can I get a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you, folks.